What's up guys, I'm Lucas. Welcome to Terracotta Aquarium. Today I'm going to be setting up this 15-gallon cube. I've got this whole selection of hardscape. I just bought like a $15 pack of all this tiny little spider wood. Got these like 2 big pieces from the local shop. Bunch more of these little sticks, that kind of thing. Small stones, and then a couple bigger pieces. My plan with this is to kind of use these pieces to create a bit of perspective in the aquarium. I've seen some like really cool stuff online of like some trees in the foreground that are bigger, so that's what I'll use like these pieces for. And then smaller stuff like this kind of working its way back to create a perspective, and then maybe sort of like a sand path going through the center. So yeah, that is my goal overall. I've also got like a whole host of botanicals, different random rocks. Here's some leaves. Ignore the fact that I spent $13 on this. Not my smartest purchase. But yeah, I've got a lot of stuff all around the house that I plan on using. And yeah, let's get cracking. I think I need to wash some sand. Check this out. So I work in a kitchen and we get these Mama Lil's peppers and to put on pizzas and stuff. And we had so many extra buckets that they said we need to get rid of these, and I said I will take all of them. Yeah, I need fish keeper's dream, 1 million buckets. All right, so scatter gravel, more scatter gravel. I'm loving how this stuff is looking. Yeah, this is going to be so cool for this kind of riverbed effect I'm going for. Got that stuff. This a little more rounded. And then we've got this sand. I think I'm just gonna do, probably be easiest to just do 2 buckets of it. Just got my trusty 4-cup measure here. It's a little wet. I'm actually gonna clean this. If I just fill like 1 bucket all the way full, it'll be a bit of a pain to actually get in there and clean it. So I think I'm gonna do 2 like buckets half full, just to be sure that I've got enough. Go. Got all my buckets of sand, buckets of substrate, time to wash it. All right, substrate washed. Now it's time to put the substrate in the tank. I just want to make sure I got everything, so let's think it through. We got the substrate in buckets washed, table full of rocks, botanicals, sticks, bag of aqua soil. I think it's time to start putting stuff in the tank. Let's do the substrate first. I've got this kind of leftover mix of sand and gravel from the first tank that I set up. And I'm just gonna use this first to get in here and just kind of start bulking things up to put the rest of the stuff on. That's kind of crazy. Just found a random piece of Java fern in here. That might be a sign. I think I'm gonna save that. Maybe put it back in the tank. I'm gonna have to wash all this sand off of it though. We'll see how it's doing. Okay, so now it's time for aqua soil. This big bag of fluval stratum. Don't think I'm gonna bring it all the way to the foregrounds. Let's just get some in there. I don't think I really want this to be like a hugely planted tank, but I do want to have plants. I think in the tank over here, I added a little bit too much, which could be contributing to some of the hair algae that I'm getting. So I'll go a little bit more reserved on this one. That's looking pretty good. I think I'm gonna add another little layer. Bulk up a little bit more. Make sure I got those nutrients in the back. I've got some leftover Flourish tabs here from Seachem. And I think I'm just gonna add these in just for some good long-term potential health for the plant. So I'm gonna put them mostly in the back. I just added 6 tabs there. Should be more than enough for a tank this size. So now I'm just gonna add in like a light layer of sand over everything. Then I'm gonna add the hardscape and then a bit more sands on top of that to make sure we've got a nice, decent size coverage for all of this aqua soil. Because we don't really want it coming back up into the water column because that can cause issues with algae and just too many nutrients. So yeah, in goes the sand. So, initial substrate is done. Now it's time for the fun part. I'm gonna get in here with some hardscape. I'm just gonna kind of mess around for a little bit until I see something that I like. So I'm gonna start with the biggest pieces first. And I think I want them sort of something like this. Maybe a little bit like that, kind of creating a perspective line. I'm obviously going to have to hide sort of the bottom, but that's what the next layer of sand is going to be for. Pour that in, cover it up. It'll also serve to lock down these pieces. Probably still attach them to rocks, but see as we go. My goal at this stage is definitely to create a bit of perspective. So I'm trying to use these 2 sticks to create that kind of perspective line. And I think something like this. I kind of lock this into the substrate, almost as if it's growing out. If it'll let me. I think that is going to look really cool. Maybe another one kind of mirrored on this side. You can see I'm kind of trying to create this perspective that makes the tank look deep. And it's working so far, I think. I need to do a little adjusting, but we'll keep cracking on. fairly happy with what I've got so far. I think I've done a good job of getting the perspective kind of going straight down the center here. It kind of feels like I have two lines of things right now, and I'm gonna get some sand in, start locking things down a little bit more, and see how it evolves as I go. That took me a little while. It's now dark outside, but that's okay. We're continuing on. So I'm pretty happy with how everything's looking so far. Yeah, you can see it's sort of all leading down the back. Got a good amount of sand in there, and I'm gonna put a whole lot of gravel on top of here. So that's kind of the next step. At first I'm gonna use some cotton pads and super glue to get in here, lock down anything that I think might float, which is probably most of this stuff because none of this wood has been in water before. It's all new stuff. So that's what I'm ready to do. So hardscape is all locked down. I think I'm now gonna go in and put a little bit of sand on top of all of those points just to make sure they're pretty well concealed. And at this point, I'm also gonna start adding some scatter gravel because that is gonna help to hide all of those little points where everything's connected. That has made me massively excited about this tank. I think it's looking fantastic. It really does look like the bottom of a creek bed so far. So I think next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back into this middle section here, and I'm gonna add in some more sand. I think I'm actually gonna go with the lighter color, because I have slightly more of the sand that was used in this tank over here, and I think that's just gonna be a nice pop, like right down the center of this little pathway I'm trying to create. Alright. Sand might look a little bit bright right now, but I think once this thing gets full, once we get some botanicals in there, that sort of thing, it'll tone down a little bit. The water's going to be much darker because of the botanicals. But yeah, that is awesome. I'm pretty happy with that for today. Alright, time to get it full of water, and then I think that's probably going to be all the time I have for today. So I'll fill it up, see you tomorrow. So it's the next morning. Last night I filled up the tank to kind of just let everything settle, and as I was doing that I stirred up some of the aqua soil. Unfortunately, you can see I tried to put more brown sand, more white sand to kind of blend it in as I was going. Ultimately, I was just going a little bit too fast last night and I messed up the substrate a little bit. But that's okay, because there are some things I like about this tank and there are some things that I don't. I think that it looks pretty good, like head on, like this shot. I think the perspective really works, but the problem is that the main viewing angle is actually kind of from this direction in. And that's because the front door, and when you come in to the house, you're basically only seeing this. And when you're sitting at my dining room table, you're basically, again, only seeing this because this tank is right here in this back portion. So this taller twig in the back is kind of cut off. So that makes me kind of want to redo the hardscape. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm not sure if I'm still gonna go with this kind of perspective idea that I have, because it really looks empty in this back corner from the main viewing angles that I've got. So I think I'm gonna redo it. Not totally sure what I'm gonna do, but I have some ideas, and it's maybe gonna be a bit of a composition that's based in this area and maybe coming this way, because that viewing angle will create the perspective that I'm looking for. So that's my plan. I think I'm gonna turn off the camera for a little bit and just sort of play around with the hardscape, and then I will bring you guys back when I have something that I like. All right, so I just spent the last hour or so basically redoing everything. I kind of took out the top layer of substrate, took out all of the hardscape that was in there, and just started fresh. And I think it's important that you guys see that part of this process, because if you're not happy with something, you can change it. And that's exactly what I did. So yeah, I'm much happier with this layout. And that's for a lot of reasons. For one, I got the big boulder in here, which I'm super stoked about. I think it's just awesome. And I think the scape needed something bigger like that, eye-catching, that's sort of in the center. It's perfect because it's kind of like off-center to the whole thing, and nothing is really like central. And there's this great line here of perspective that pulls the eye kind of all the way back into the main structure here. And that's perfect because you come in the door right over there. So you're immediately gonna see this aquarium, and then you're gonna be drawn to this one with that perspective line. And it's great because there is like a ton of swim room in the top, plenty of space to plant in the backgrounds, plenty of space sort of in the foreground here to get some things in. Yeah, I'm super happy with it, honestly. I'm really excited to start planting and to fill it up again. Hopefully nothing's gonna float, but I did that same process of locking everything down with a little bit of cotton pad and super glue. So yeah, it's time for planting. My plan for planting is, maybe you can see over here, in this tank, there's all of this mass of Java fern, and a lot of it is having these little kind of offshoots. You can see some right here that are kind of forming at the ends. So I'm gonna take as many of those as I can, and they're pretty small now, but I think it's gonna be fun to put them in this new tank and then see how they grow. That's part of the fun of plants for me, is seeing them grow. So I'm going to take those. There's also some plants in the background. They're mostly behind this central piece that you can't really see right now, but they're not doing so well in this tank. So I think I'm going to take those out, replant them in the new tank, and then get some different stems for this one. Also, in the tank in the office, let me bring you guys in here. In the background here, there is like a bunch of Vallisneria that is kind of just like dying. So I'm gonna get in there, I'm gonna take that out, check around in here to see if there's anything else that I want to pull. And yeah, I'm gonna go around the house, get a bunch of plants. I think I'm also gonna take some of this Java moss. I've kind of just still got it on the pads that it came on in here. So yeah, I'm gonna take that, sort of poke around for a little bit and see what all I want to take. So I gathered up a whole lot of plants, basically a bunch of plants that weren't doing well, and a few baby Java ferns here, Got the Vallisneria. This dwarf sage is actually doing so well in the tank that I just decided to trim it out a little bit, take a few for the new tank. Got this little bit of Java moss here. I might get a little bit more. And then this plant, I cannot recall the name. I'll try to put it on screen, but this wasn't doing so well in my main Quarry Mountain tank. So I'm gonna try it in here, see if it does a little bit better. But I'm gonna clean these up a little bit and then start planting. So I think I'm gonna start with the stem plants first. I've caught a couple pieces of this Vallisneria here. And I think I want to put it in this kind of back corner area because I'm planning to put the heater there and then the hang on the back filter. Actually, hang on the back filter is probably going to be over here. But we can at least hide the heater by planting the Vallisneria back here. So that is my first step. I'm just going to take my tweezers. Just grab the end. I like the tweezers that sort of have this angled bit. And I'm just going to take it right between the tweezers, not too hard. Take it into the bag here. Push it straight down in there. And then I'm going to kind of wiggle the tweezers as I go, which kind of moves the substrate back in around it as you're going. And then boom, plant it. So now we're going to go in with our next stems. These guys, whose name can't quite remember, but this is the best piece. I think I am going to try to sort of put this in the back with the Vallisneria and maybe have it kind of similar, a few pieces maybe over there. But I kind of want this one sort of central here. Man, I'm not gonna lie, I'm loving this so far. I think that's gonna blend together super well and just start looking super jungly. I really like the contrast of like the red and the green too. Yeah, it's starting to pop. So next I've got these couple pieces of dwarf sage. And I think I wanna kind of use this as a bit of like a mid-ground plant, kind of growing out from the hardscape in the front, and it'll kind of mimic the Vallis in the back. And I think that'll look super cool. And this stuff was growing absolutely fantastically in my main tank. I'll give you another look here. But I just took out like a couple of shoots. All that started from like one plant, one or two. So yeah, I'm gonna add this in. Hopefully it does just as well here as it was doing there. I think something like this. Just poking out from between everything. It's gonna look so good. Yeah. So next I'm gonna go in with some job ferns. I've got all of these little babies that I harvested, and I'm just gonna try to put them all over this central area. Yeah, this is a tank of babies and rejects, but I love it. So yeah, I'm just trying to clump them up a little bit, and I'll find some good places for them. I think we are looking absolutely fantastic. I'm super happy with it so far. I think it's looking miles better than my first design. And yeah, don't be afraid to change things. If you start something and it's not looking good, you can go from a mediocre design to something that is looking absolutely great. Especially once the water gets in this and this valve starts standing up, that's gonna be great. So there's one last thing I want to put in this, and that is this little clump of Java moss. I am massively happy with how this is turning out. It makes me super stoked to be able to reuse a lot of plants from other setups, and it just goes to show that once you get one tank set up, you can start taking plants from there, moving them to other tanks. Everything kind of gets cheaper and cheaper as you go. And the hardscape in here, I mean, I did buy the scatter gravel and all of the sticks, but all of like the bigger rocks and like the central rock, all of that stuff I just kind of found around the neighborhood while just walking around doing my average daily life. But the 2 bags of scatter gravel was maybe like 20-30 bucks. Same for the hardscape. Yeah, 30 to 40, something like that. It was just one little packet of sticks and then 2 bigger pieces. But yeah, I think it's time to fill it up. One thing I did do that you'll see is I added just the heater and just while I was downloading footage and getting my camera ready for this part. So yeah, let's fill it up and see how all the plants settle. Alright guys, so here it is in all of its glory. I think it's looking absolutely awesome. Obviously a little cloudy right now because I just filled it up, but I've turned on the heater, so temperature is starting to get correct. Obviously no filter yet. I think I'm going to do that in the next sort of installment of this, probably next week, but you'll see that in probably a couple minutes in the video. A couple more things that I want to do today. So I'm going to let it get to correct temperature. I think I'm going to add a little bit of, what do you call it? I've got some right here. A little bit of this prime to dechlorinate the water. And then I'm going to add some stability to get the cycle started, and a little bit of this flourish here for the plants. And I'm going to think about some inhabitants. I'm thinking maybe a few snails, little colony, something like that. Kind of get everything started. With the spiderwood like this, there's a pretty high chance that we're going to get some sort of biofilm building up on the whole thing. So just starting the snails in here to start the cycle. They'll likely take care of all of that and keep it nice and clean while the cycle gets going and I start thinking about a filter. I decided to do one more thing. I boiled some small oak leaves to add to it, because the goal for this, after all, is to be kind of a Blackwater setup with a good amount of tannins in the water. So I think I'm going to add those, and then I'm going to go around the house and find a bunch of snails. so I just put in all of the oak leaves, and as you can see, they are all floating at the top. I guess I didn't boil them long enough, but you know, these things happen. They're gonna sink in their own time. Not everything goes to plan. You can see that, you know, with the process on the hardscape and now with these floating leaves, but it's gonna be fine. We'll let them go down as they please. I've gathered up this little group of snails here. Let's make sure you can see that. Yep, the lighting's not great. But anyway, little group of snails. And they are gonna go into the tank. Come on, guys. So, day 2 of the aquarium's done. Super happy with how it's looking. Ooh, looks like the leaves are finally starting to sink. Yeah, super happy with it so far. Obviously, I'm gonna need a filter on this. I'm also gonna need some fish. So, I think I'm gonna go look on Amazon at filters. I kind of want some sort of like hang on the back type thing, maybe something from Oase, because I don't know, I like that brand. That's what my canister is. So, maybe try out something from them. But yeah, I think I'm gonna see you guys in a week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll put on the filter and we'll add some fish. It's been about a month, maybe 3 to 4 weeks, something like that. And the tank has been doing pretty well. It's been a pretty smooth startup phase. A few things have changed since you last saw the tank. We've got this little Oase hang on the back filter here. I had to kind of put it on the side of the tank, unfortunately, because there's not quite enough room actually behind the tank just with the way that I set this shelf up. So, lessons learned for the future there. As I put the filter here, I decided to move the heater over to the other side, over here. So, unfortunately it's a little bit of an eyesore, but with the viewing angle here, you don't really see it nearly as much. I've got the filter set pretty low because I did add some floating plants to the top, just a few for now. Just a little bit of Amazon frog bit and then duckweed that came along with that. So I've got the filter set pretty low so it doesn't just blast the roots of the floating plants to bits. Unfortunately, they're kind of getting caught a little bit underneath the filter in places. So I'll troubleshoot that a little bit. I think that they might just sort of find their place as things go on. So I'm thinking of adding like a terrestrial plant to the top and maybe changing the light. Because it is, like the lighting is a little bit low. I think I've only got it on about 60% right now, so I might turn that up. But I've just been keeping the light lower in the kind of startup phase of the aquarium just to minimize any algae or anything like that. But the plants have been doing decently. It's kind of slow growing with these sort of younger plants here, specifically the Java fern in the center. It hasn't shown like a whole lot of growth, but Java fern is fairly slow growing to begin with. So we'll see how that progresses. The plant that I still cannot recall the name of has bits of it have been consumed by the snails, and it has still been struggling, but it's putting off some new little roots in places kind of higher up, so it's obviously trying to take some nutrients from the water column. So I've been continuing to dose with the Flourish from Seachem as I go. Let's see, the Vallisneria has been growing ever so slightly from what I can tell. I think it's sort of replacing the leaves that we're not doing quite as well with new growth, so that's good. The Dwarf Sage has been doing fantastic. So far, I've used this plant in this tank over here. You can see a little sprig of it there. It's doing fantastic in that tank. It's like twice as tall as when you last saw it. And so yeah, it's been doing well here and I expect it to do well. And honestly, so far it's one of my favorite plants. I really just like how it looks, and I think it It works really well in this kind of aquarium, this sort of riverbed look. So I think I'm gonna continue to use it in some future setups. You know, the moss it's not really taken off yet. There's been a little bit of algae growing on this top one here in particular, and I think that's because it's like right in the flow coming out of the filter. So I'm just keeping an eye on that. As for the inhabitants, the snails have been doing great. There were a couple that died after I put them in, just from that new, startup phase, but that's okay. They've been reproducing at a great rate, and they did a really good job of eliminating all of the biofilm that accumulated on the spider wood. So there's just like a tiny bit right on this tip of moss, and that's really all that I have to speak of. I never went through a phase where everything was covered because the snails were just so on top of it. So really happy with them. In terms of the cycling, I've done maybe like 3 water changes on this. I've just kind of let things build up and take them down, build up and take them down. And now we're at a point where I'm reading 0 ammonia, 0 nitrite, and just a little bit of nitrate. And so that's how you know that your tank is cycled and ready to go. I also added some alder cones. You can see them kind of dotted around. I did a water change after I added them because the tank was pretty dark, but I wanted to have that Blackwater tanned look because I think it has a really nice contrast, with this tank over here. So I'm gonna wait. I might add more, but I kind of want to get the fish in here first because I might have to do a water change, as part of the cycling that happens when you add new fish. So I'm gonna wait, get the fish settled in here, and then maybe add some more alder cones and maybe take out some of the ones that have used up their tannins already or aren't producing as much as new alder cones would be producing. Overall, plants haven't shown a whole lot of growth, but I think that's going to be part of the fun with this tank for me, is sort of seeing how the struggling plants hopefully improve and how the little baby java ferns grow and how the dwarf sage does over time. To be honest, I kind of expect that this dwarf sage in the Valiesin area will just take over, and then I'll just have this sort of like grassy bottom of the riverbed look with little pops of java fern and maybe some of these like stem plants that I wish I could tell you the name of as they continue to grow. But I think it's going to be fun, just to see over time. But anyway, I've got my sweater on. I'm ready to go to the fish store. So I'm super excited. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to get yet. I'm going to go there, sort of just have a look around and see what cool fish they have. I want to get something, obviously, or a species that's more suited to more tannin water and a slightly lower pH, because that'll happen over time, as the botanicals break down and that kind of thing. So, I'm going to go there, see what I get, and I'll see you guys back here in a little bit. Alright guys, so I got the fish. I'm super excited. Not sure if you can tell what they are yet, but I'll give you a little bit more description when I add them into the tank. But super excited. It's 2 different types of fish that I've never had before. So I'm just gonna let them acclimate to the temperature here, and I'm going to add a little bit of water from the tank to each bag every 5 minutes or so over the next 30-40 minutes, something like that. And then they're going to be acclimated and ready to go in the tank. Alright guys, it is time to release the fish. So, our first friend that we have going in here, this is a reticulated hill stream loach. Here he goes. Oh, come on, little guy. Doesn't quite want to come out. There we go. Straight onto the wood and exploring the tank. So next up, we have a group of 10 platinum Medacas. Alright, so these guys are settling in. I'm gonna give them a little bit to sort of, find their place and see how they do. I'm gonna kind of watch from afar, see if I need to adjust the flow, because I have it a little bit high right now for the Hillstream Loach. But I've been told that these guys should be pretty good tank mates, so we'll see how they do. If it seems like they're getting blown around too much, then I'll adjust it. But I'm gonna sit back and watch for a little bit, and yeah, we can come back after that. One thing I'm gonna do before I step away is actually I'm gonna use some of this stability, just since we just added fish to the aquarium. And we want to make sure that the cycle stays nice and strong to support this new bioload. So I'm just going to use the recommended amount of stability here, which I believe is about 1.25 cups. So I've given the fish maybe a half hour or so to kind of chill out and find their places. I lowered the flow a little bit because it seemed like the Medacas were having a little bit of trouble, and especially while they're settling in. I don't want to totally rile up the place with flow. The Hillstream Loach, he's in the back right now, he or she, I'm not totally sure, has just been kind of zooming around the tank, settling in. It's really interesting to watch him and see how all of these guys kind of settle into this place that I've made for them. Apparently these Medacas, they're like they're sold to me as platinum rice fish, and I've got a group of 10 here. Or platinum Medacas. They're apparently also known as Japanese rice fish, so I might confuse that a little bit while I'm talking about them. Oh, there's our Loach friends. But this is a reticulated Hillstream Loach. And he's coming right up to me here. He's such a cool guy. I just got one Hillstream Loach, and I was reading online while I was at the store that it's best if you have a group of 2 to 3. But when I talked to the owner of the shop, she said that with an aquarium of my size, it probably would be best to just get one, because she's a big fan of Hillstream Loaches as well, and she was saying that she had 3 males that all kind of grew up together, and apparently when they got to like a certain size and age, they just started attacking each other. And I really trust her expertise, so she's told me to just get one, so that's what I went with, and we'll see how they do. But seems like they're settling in super well so far. I'm really pleased, and these little Medacas are just super cute, and their colors really pop, and I think especially as the water becomes more and more tannins, they are just gonna really pop out with the blues and everything. Like as they've been settling in, the blue in their body has been coming out more and more, so that is really fun to see. I also decided to remove the floating plants, because just with the amount of flow, they were just getting battered all over the place and they really didn't look that good. So I think as kind of a final touch to the tank, I am going to just take a cutting of some pothos and just put it up in the corner. Mostly just to help with just the nutrient levels in the tank, and just make sure that we don't get any big like nitrate spikes or anything like that, as the tank is kind of acclimatizing to our family of fish here. Oh, and one other thing that I did is you can see that the filter is in a slightly different position. And that's because I decided to put this black filter sponge over the inlet for the filter. I was a little bit concerned that maybe some of the smaller rice fish might get sort of caught up in it. And I'm not sure if that would happen, but I figured I'd just play it safe, you know, just to be sure. So I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a little bit unsightly, and it's kind of on top of some plants. So I might have to rearrange things a little bit in the coming days, but I don't want to spend too much time like inside the tank right now. I just want to let them totally chill out. Overall, I am really, really happy with this tank. I think the fish that I've chosen just look fabulous. I'm super excited to see how they grow and settle in, and how the tank evolves in the coming months. It was a bit of a process, this project, with the hardscape and everything. I tried the original idea I had of creating that perspective going straight on, and it didn't really work for me. But it just goes to show, you know, you've got to be willing to change things and don't get stuck into an idea if it's not working for you. Because that layout just wasn't really making me happy, and this one does. And there's just a lot of really cool places in this tank, and plenty of spots for all of the fish to hide. And I'm really excited to see how the hill stream loach interacts with the place as well. And yeah, like he's just gone right underneath the Anubias just now, and it's so cool. I can't wait to sit down and just set up my camera and just take a bunch of B-roll of this tank. Yeah, I could ramble on and on about this. I'm super pleased with it. But yeah, that's the tank. I hope you enjoyed following along with me here as I set this up. Maybe it's inspired you to do something of your own. And I'll be back with more videos and definitely updates on this tank. So make sure you like and subscribe, follow along, and yeah, I'm excited to do more. Thanks, guys.